following presentation was recorded live in Los Angeles, California for the 24th Annual Convention for the International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is Tape 10, Understanding Technical Zeros.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Did you enjoy your lunch? My name is Kip Garvey. This session is Understanding Technical Zeros. Welcome, Don. We have handouts out on the front. Make sure that you pick up each of 3 sets of the handouts. Now, the reason we have the handouts, quite frankly, is because we do not want to get technical about the technical zeros. We want to try to show you how to use technical zeros, how to recognize them, how to use them, and that type of thing. Now, my associate that I'll be working with this afternoon is a bright young man from Germany. He has written an article for you on fractional zeros that you'll also find in your handout. He is a student in Karlsruhe, Germany. He is a mathematician and studying to be computer science, in the computer sciences. He's here with his lovely fiancée, and I want you to show a warm USA welcome to Lorenz Kuhlee. Now, when you started calling, I know, we all started calling. Do you remember the very first time you picked up a microphone? Yeah, immediately. I can tell you exactly where it was, when it was, and I can tell you exactly what I called. All right, would you like to see what I called? Give me a square up here. I'll show you exactly what I did the very first time I picked up a microphone to call. I was 12 and a half years old.
5 years back.
Just 5 years ago. And I did it on a dare, kind of like what that young man did this morning. The caller that was calling for our teen group was on his way into the service, and he was trying to close us down. I said, "There's no need to do that. I'll call." And he said, "Okay, let's see what you can do." I said, "Heads do a right and left through, turn the girl. Roll that girl a half sachet. Square through, and it go about 4. When you get done, box the gnat. Change girls, box the flea. Change hands, box the gnat." He says, I'm not going. I can't go in the service. You are terrible." Thanks, guys. That's just, I can remember it just like it happened yesterday. That was my first experiment with calling. I had men boxing the gnat with men, women with women, and everything that you think you know about square dancing, all of a sudden, just jumps right out of your mind. And so I learned, much like you did, that you try to search for rules, some sort of rules that you can follow. Now, Bill Davis just walked in, and Bill, you recall the caller school we did where we had a lot of the C1, C2, and C3 dancers that attended the caller school. Some of the graduates from this caller school include Robert French, Stuart Kramer. Those of you who are on the internet, you'll recognize those names. And there was one in particular, a very astute dancer, challenge dancer. And he's a great guy, and he would come up and just talk choreography to you all the time. And I remember the first time he put a microphone in his hands, and he was 6'2", big man. And after head square through 4, nothing else came out. It was like all of that choreography that he knew so much about just dried up as soon as those people started to move. And so we all experience this, and to try to overcome this, we have to develop some sort of rules. And the rules that we develop as we go along are very creative rules because we do it ourselves. There aren't very many rules about calling that you can read in a book, even today, and just pick them up, memorize the rules, and start calling. One of the toughest rules that you come up with in the beginning is when the dancers start moving and you're changing partners, you have to come up with some kind of a rule to track which dancer is with which other dancer. You know, the first time you have your partner float off to the opposite side of the square and you're like watching the number 1 man, there's a feeling of panic inside. Like maybe she's gone for life and you'll never get her back. So you come up with rules that you develop that help you to follow these dancers. To give you an example of some of the rules and how they can handicap us down the line, let me get a square up just for a second real quick. My sample square. I'm going to ask you now, because you all have developed this rule. I know you have. We must. You have to have something. I'm not going to tell you what the rule is. I'm going to let you tell me what you do. Have the heads go in the center and pair off. Thank you. And step to an ocean wave. All right. Now, in your mind, you've just did what? Square through 4, do-si-do, make a wave, okay? Now you're going to call an all 8 circulate. That's going to be your next call. This, by the way, is the call that just destroyed me. Because when they did an all 8 circulate, as soon as they took their first step, my nice symmetric geometric shape disappeared, and I had 8 people going in different directions, and it just blew my mind. Who are you watching when you think about an all 8 circulate, when you watch the dancers? What rule do you follow to try to track them? Does anybody follow, like, for instance, adjacents here, and you think to yourself that this man is now with his corner lady. When he finishes the circulate, he's going to be with whom? He's going to be with his right-hand lady, okay? All right? How many of you do that? Follow this adjacency type thing? How many of you follow, like, the people facing the same way? You know, because why? Well, I know who they are. I just did a head square through 4 hands. This 0 wave or 0 box that it came from is a very comfortable zone for me as a caller. And so I want to try to keep these people together, and the neat part about an all 8 circulate is it does just that. Do an all 8 circulate. And you can see that these 2 people are still together. And furthermore, I don't care who they're with, I know that I got to get them back to the other 2. And if I move them together, and they move together across the square, they will be back. All 8 circulate again. And I know they're back again. So this is kind of like, this is what I mean when I say a rule. It's a little thought process that you develop on your own to try to follow dancers around. Everybody with me so far? And they're different for different people. As a matter of fact, those of you who like to follow adjacency when you do a circulate, you probably would agree that your partner in an ocean wave is the adjacent. And those of you who like to follow people facing the same way would probably want to argue that a partner in a wave are the people facing the same direction. Because it fits the rule structure. It fits the rule structure that you develop for yourself, okay? And that's also why we've never been able to reconcile that question. Because when we start calling these basic rules that we develop, this is the foundation of our calling technique. And we can't afford to have something as earth-shattering as someone to come up and just dissolve one of our rules. So we have a situation here where we're developing rules. You guys want to take a break just a second? Sit yourself down. And when it comes to modular type of calling, there was no need. When it comes to when it comes to modular type of calling, we have a whole series of rules that we've developed. And so we're going to be talking about technical zeros and some rules that apply to them. We'll be speaking about fractional zeros and some rules that apply to those. And then you fit this new set of rules, if you will, into all the rules that you currently have. And it should enhance your overall perspective on choreography. Now, regarding our choreographic thing here, we have done sessions on sight calling for the last 2 or 3 years. And this is the first opportunity that I've had to do one on modular calling. I firmly believe that until you have mastered modular type of calling, you could possibly be wasting your time with sight calling. All right? It's a whole picture. It's an amalgamation of technique. It's not separate techniques. Now, sight calling will work, and it will work fine, but if you really understand modules and how they're constructed, how they go together, then your sight calling is going to be a heck of a lot better, and you're going to be a more reliable sight caller also. So let's take a look and concentrate on these modules. The modules that we are most familiar with are equivalents and zeros. Do we agree? Of the zero classification, we have true zeros, which can also be geographically true. We have technical zeros, and we have fractional zeros. True zeros, everybody more or less knows what a true zero is. But for the sake of those who don't, you'll find definitions in the paperwork that we've handed out. All right? Come on up here, Bob. Get a set. Lorenz is going to speak on the fractional zeros, and then I'll be speaking on the technical zeros. Now, a zero must return your dancers back to the same phaser. formation, arrangement, sequence, and relationship. In order for a zero to be a zero, it has to do that. We also have series of calls within a module. A module can be one call or more to accomplish the goal of zeroing the dancers back to the phaser. All right? So we're not limited, for instance, to a module must be 3 calls, or a module must be 5 calls, or a module must be less than 3. It can be a single call, or it can be a cluster of calls. How many of you are familiar with the expression, when in trouble, call the thing double? Okay. This was my first introduction to the concept of fractional zeros. There are some calls. It just so happens that if you call them twice, they zero out. We're going to find out that little rule of thumb is not a very reliable rule of thumb. That sometimes you have to call them 3 times, and sometimes 4, sometimes 6, and Lorenz has actually discovered one that you got to call 12 times before it zeroes out. It was a Bill Peters, and it's amazing because I don't know if anybody can count or remember how many times they've called that particular sequence. I don't even know how many calls are in the sequence, but it's written down there. And so, without any further ado, I want you to bring on Lorenz, and remember, please, that English is his second language. And if you speak German very well, then then you can criticize his English. All right? But if you don't speak German very well, please accept the fact that Lorenz is a little bit nervous, and he may misspeak himself from time to time. And if that happens, don't jump all over him. All right? Jump on me instead. Yes.
Quick question. We have 3 sets.
Yeah. Let's make sure that everybody has the handouts. First off, this is a kind of an optional handout. This is 8 pages printed both sides. It says Tech Notes on it. And this is a reproduction of what was in Direction newsletter a while ago on technical zeros. Okay? This is a technical document. It's written to be a technical document. All right? It might be a little bit difficult to understand the first read through. The second handout that we have is one on technically equivalent setups. And it's important that you understand this concept. Otherwise, technical zeros just become another thing for you. And whether or not you'll be able to use it, I don't know. But technically equivalent setups are something you must understand. And this particular handout has got some graphics on it and so on. If you don't have this, come on up and get it. And then the last handout is a little worksheet that I put together that gives you samples of technical zeros from some of our more common formations and arrangements. And that looks like this. If you don't have that, come on up and get one. Okay? All right. A warm welcome for Lorenz Kuhlee.
Fractional zeros. We start with fractional zeros? Yeah, let's start with fractional zeros.
Okay. Can I get a square first? I want to show you, want to say if my accent is a German accent. Kim said already, so if you don't understand, pass the microphone to Kip again. There are half zeros. Everybody knows what a half zero is. A zero that you have to call 2 times. So heads right and left through, that's 1 time. And heads right and left through, so that is easy half fractional zero. Head step into the middle and pair off face. Step to a wave. A 1/3 zero is single hinge center straight. So do it. Single hinge center straight, that's 1. Single hinge center straight, that's 2. Single hinge center straight. Okay. Do 1/2 of a spread, nose to nose. Do a left dollar man just to get okay, and promenade home. And I hope you get your partner. It was 3 times. So when you're in trouble, do a double. It's not quite right, like Kip said. It's sometimes call it 3 times, sometimes call it 4 times. While browsing through the mainstream list You can just, that's how you can invent a fractional zero. Just go, let's say two couples can sit down. I just need two couples. Thank you. Who wants? Okay.
1 and 4.
Really. That might be a good idea to swing around to 1 and 4 so everybody can see. Thank you.
While browsing through the mainstream list, each call is some kind of a zero. You don't do that, you can see it. If a two ladies chain, it's a twice. The do side do is nothing, it's a non-fractional zero, yeah? A 0, 0, okay. A two ladies chain or right and left throughs are half. What is slide through? 4 times. What is swing through? 4 times. Spin the top? 4 times. Fan the top? 4 times. Step to a wave and recycle. Do it. Step to a wave, recycle. Step to a wave, recycle. So it's a half. And that's where comes the terminology, says when in trouble do a double, because every sequence you call, you can let the dancers end up with one call. I can call flutter wheel, that's a chain, and recycle. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you.
Now, the fractional aspect of the fractional zero is if you have to repeat it 3 times, that becomes a 1/3 fractional zero, meaning that each segment of calls, a group of calls, represents 1/3 of the entire zero. Okay? So that's why we have the term fractional, because the segments have to be combined in some way. Does anybody have any questions on the basic concept of a fractional zero up to this point?
Can you explain that you don't have to do the 3 calls in succession? Or let me ask you, do you have to do them 3 in succession, or in your sequence have to do them 3 times for it to zero out on a third?
Why don't you give us a more precise example?
The hinge and the centers trade, hinge centers trade, hinge centers trade.
Right.
Do you have to do it in that sequence, one after another? Can you insert things in between?
Well, all right. Now, if your insertion point, let's call the hinge and the centers trade a single segment of the 1/3 zero, okay? If your insertion point is after a segment with another zero, let's say another true zero, the answer is yes, and that's where we're going from here. Like, for instance, you know that you can do a step to a wave recycle and a step to a wave recycle. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. And so you could do your hinge, centers trade, step to a wave recycle, step to a wave recycle, hinge, centers trade, step to a wave recycle, step to a wave recycle. If that's what you mean, yes. And that's where we're going. We're going to insert other types of zeros, true zeros, or even other fractional zeros, in between the segments of a given fractional zero. And this is going to really give us some power in developing these modules. Go ahead.
Okay. So, just the bottom line, what I want to say is, from the first, when you're in trouble, do a double. It's not always right, because when it has a slide-through effect, your choreography, you have to do it 4 times. Yeah. So that's the one thing. And then you can add a zero in between each call. It doesn't matter if it's a half zero, a third zero, or 1/4 or 1/12. Yeah. I just forgot one thing. When you call a zero, a true zero, what you have to remember? The module, and from where it starts. Is this a line zero or a box zero? On a fractional zero, you have to keep track on one other thing, and that's how often you called it before. Yeah. And I want to talk then, let's say if you have a 1/6 they're out of use in today's choreography, but you have a hall with 20 squares and you called it 2 times, and that 80%, however, break down. You have to call it 4 times more, but only 2 squares were dancing. So we're going to have to rescue the situation somehow. And the way out is to have a get out from every step, from every fractional.
Right. After each segment, you should have a get out routine, especially if your fractional zero results in different arrangements after each segment. And we'll give you an example of that too.
Yeah. And when playing with 1/3 zero or 1/6 zero, these zeros playing with arrangements. And that's a good workshop item. Step to a wave and recycle, step to a wave and recycle as a zero. Combine that with, we're not talking about body flow, okay? We're just saying head square to 4, step to a wave, single hinge, center straight. That's one of the 1/3 zero. Now I can add in between another recycle, step to a wave, recycle. Step to a wave, single hinge, center straight. And so on. But what happens on the square is that one time is the boy on the outside, girls in the center, recycle. One time is 2 boys together, recycle. The other time, boys on the outside, or boy, girl arrangement. And that's a powerful workshop item. And you can generate your workshop by just browsing through the mainstream list and see what, just pick any call. I said fan the top. It's a 4 times 0. You can find equivalents for fan the top, and it's also a 1/4 0.
All right, let's take a moment now to demonstrate this, because we've been talking about a very simple application, and yet you need something that's a little bit more workable. So let's get a square up, and we'll show you this feature about how the arrangements change through the zeros. It's no work for us, because we know that this is zeroing out. But for the dancers, it gets to be exciting, and we only need one more couple. Great. So let's have the head square through 4 hands. We're not going to use any music with this right now because we want to go slow enough so you can see the actions that are involved. Touch a quarter, centers trade. So what we did was we stepped to a wave and hinged and centers traded. That's what we did. But we used touch a quarter for flow. Now let's use a 0. You all know that swing through, boys run, wheel and deal is a 0. It's not from here.
Not from here. Centers run.
What did I say? Swing through. Centers run. I didn't say that. I said boys run. All right, wheel and deal. And now step to a wave. And they're right back again. Now let's continue with the next segment of the fractional 0. Hinge, centers trade. Once more, a different arrangement for the dancers. Swing through. Centers run. Ferris wheel, and the centers pass through. A little modification to that. Swing through, centers run, wheel and deal. Still the same 0. Step to a wave. Hinge, centers trade. And we should be at this point back again. Are we not? And back to where? Back to our 0 wave. Somebody have a get out? A nice, clever little get out from a 0 wave? Anybody? Go ahead, Lloyd. Swing through. AC-doocy. Girls turn back and promenade home. All right? Right. And now, we're making some basic assumptions here. One of them is that you're familiar with the term get out and that you can actually, some get outs from a 0 wave. To get to the 0 wave, that whole sequence might look like this. Head square through 4. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. Centers run. Wheel and deal. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. Centers run. What did I do? Ferris wheel. Centers pass through. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. Swing through. Oh. Hinge. I am so totally screwed up here. I didn't call a swing through in there, right? I left that 1 to 0. Okay, recycle for me. Veer left. What the heck is going on here? Girls circulate. Thank you very much, Lawrence. Couples circulate 1.5. Bend the line. Now, erase all that. Side square through 4. Let's see if we can put this together correctly. I'll tell you what, you take the true zeros, I'll take the fractionals, all right? Touch a quarter, and the centers trade.
Recycle, sweep a quarter, pass the ocean.
Hinge, centers trade.
Swing through, centers run, Ferris wheel, centers pass through.
Touch a quarter, centers trade. And now we're back where we started from. And we're ready for the get out. And any appropriate zero wave get out from here. All right? Anybody, you don't need to see these get outs, do you? Centers trade. Recycle, one of my favorites. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. Centers run. 3/4 tag. Right and left grand. Ooh.
I hope that is on tape.
Could you write that down? All right. At any event, thank you. Do you want to add anything else to this now at this point?
No, I just want to emphasize that it's a very powerful tool, and you have to be very careful when using 1/3 zeros, because these playing with arrangements, and some dancers, I'm talking not only in America, because I know some of you think Europe is the high whatever. We have also, every dancer, when you change arrangements, there is problems all the time, because it feels different, but what we've called was just single hinge, center straight, and a zero that we all know.
Okay, can we get a refresher square up? Some new blood. Is anybody in here colorblind? Seriously? No, I didn't mean seriously colorblind. I meant seriously, is anybody colorblind? Okay. In that case, we want couples number 3 and 2 to put these pennies on inside out. Okay? Inside out. Yeah, if we put them out proper side out, people that are colorblind can't distinguish the colors. If we put them inside out, oh, okay. Inside out, then you have shades of gray, and it's no longer a problem. That's okay. All right. Hey, looking good. That's okay. Makes no difference. We can all see. Yes, I did, Ellen. I did. Yes, you do. Very well. Okay. Let's take a look at the handout entitled Technical Zero, the sample Technical Zero sheet that you have. All right. Now, the reason I put pennies on these is so you can identify these dancers. So I want you to concentrate on this half of the square, and it should be easier to identify them as we're going. Also, make the couple with their back to you. In your mind, make that couple number 1. So couple number 1 and couple number 4 have the pennies on. Do we all agree? Okay? And for those of you who enjoy sight technique at all, pivots are the 2 centermost of the pair. So Dawn is a pivot, and this lady right here is a pivot. Sandy? Seal is also a pivot. So when we start looking for the corners, that's the visual thing we want, but we're going to do something else besides that. We have heads and we have sides. Let's have the heads pair off. Now, the term phaser, formation, arrangement, sequence, relationship, identifies a complete setup in the square. And if I can identify each of those 4 characteristics, then I have a very precise definition of the setup where everybody is. The formation is what? 8 chain through boxes. All right. The arrangement is zero or normal, normally arranged boxes or 8 chain throughs. The sequence is, this is a trick question now. I'll tell you right up front, this is a trick question. Sequence itself is defined as the ascending or descending order of the dancers around the perimeter of the square. All right? If the order is ascending, they're said to be in sequence. If it's descending, they're said to be out of sequence. Now, we can have a situation where women and men carry the same sequence condition. This is such a case where men and women are both in sequence. So the relative sequence of men and women is same. They carry the same sequence. All right? Now watch what happens here. Veer left and bend the line. And you can see just by the fact that Ellen is over here in this line and Dawn is over there, and yet Seal still has her partner, that something dramatically has changed with the sequence. The men have not changed their sequence condition at all. Their sequence condition is still in. But two of the ladies have crossed over, which has changed the sequence of the ladies. So here we say that the relative sequence of men and women is not same. Now, do we have to know whether the men are in and the girls are out or vice versa? At this point, no. All we really need to know is they do not carry the same sequence condition. Okay? And those are the only two sequence states that we're going to be concerned with when we discuss technical zeros. Do the people in the square, men versus women, do they carry the same sequence condition or do they carry a not same sequence condition? All right? Square your set, please. So that's one term that we want you to become familiar with. Have the heads go in the center and pair off one more time. And right now we have a formation of the 8 chain through box. We have an arrangement of normal or zero arranged couples in the box. We have a sequence condition, which we're going to call same. And our relationship is, anybody want to take a guess? Facing corners. All right? Outside couple is paired, all facing corners. And if you were to vocalize this setup, it would be a chain through box in sequence or same sequence condition, outside couple paired, all facing corners. That says it all. All right? The phaser for this is exactly that, and the symbol for it is zero box. That's the symbol that we use to describe this particular setup. Or we can use box 1-4. There's a lot of them. Yeah. Zero box, a box 1-4. You'll hear it called many things. Okay? Now, when it comes to a technical zero, you will find that any setup, regardless of the arrangement of the dancers, regardless of the sequence condition, regardless of the formation, you can write a technical zero that will move the dancers from that setup to its technical equivalent. What is a technical equivalent for this zero box right here? Heads back away, please, from home to home. Sides move in and pair off. This is the technical equivalent of that setup. Is it exactly the same as the other setup? Well, no, there's a lot of things that are slightly different here. Is the phaser the same? Yes. The phaser is precisely the same. Look at it. Outside couples paired, all facing corners. I mean, the phaser is identical. But it's 90 degrees rotated, so there's a geographic difference. And in one case, I had sides on the outside, heads on the inside. In this case, I have heads on the outside, sides on the inside. So it is not precisely the same. There is a slight difference. This is the distinguishing difference between a setup and its technical equivalent. Every setup will have a technical equivalent. Okay? How do we get there? Well, heads, sides rather, you back out. Let's have the heads go in the center, pair off and face your corner. All right? Now, basically all I have to do, and let me take the portable mic so I can travel with it. Basically, what I'm going to do here is to rotate the dancers one same-sex position around the square. you're going to see that Don has to rotate to this position. He, in turn, will rotate to this position. And likewise for the ladies. They must also rotate one position. Relative to the same sex. Now, not one absolute position, but relative to the same sex. So in other words, I need Ellen. She's going to have to rotate all the way back to here. All right? Do me a favor and take your entire square and rotate it 90 degrees. Clockwise. All right? Clockwise. The other clockwise. Hang on. Let's go back. Hold it. This is the way. Clockwise. That's it. Keep my 8-chain through box. That's it. And now have the centers unpair off and the others move in and pair off. And that accomplishes that rotation. Okay? Now, you would never call that. God forbid. But for demonstration purposes, you can see that Don used to be here, and now he has rotated one position. Ellen was here, and she rotated also one position relative to a same sex. And that's true for all the dancers around. All right? Now, anytime that you can accomplish this in using one call or more in a module, that module will be a technical zero. Okay? Let's go back home again. You're darn right. That's where I'm going with it. Have the heads go in the center and pair off. Okay? Notice that we have side couples on the outside, head couples on the inside. Star through, pass through, bend the line, and star through. And there's the rotation. All right? There's the rotation. And if I swung the whole square around so that it had the same geographic aspect, if I swung it all around 90 degrees, I'm not going to try that because last time we did, we almost killed them. Then you would see that Don, who was standing here, has rotated to the outside. Okay? And so on. So that technical zero from that particular box of square through, two hands, or star through, pass through, bend the line, and star through, accomplished arriving the square at the technical equivalent setup to where it was. Yeah. Star through, pass through, bend the line, and star through. Why? Because two technical zeros always equal a true zero. All right? Always. Two technical zeros always equal a true zero. So there you have it. Now, what effect does sequence have on the technical zero? This is what causes us to go bananas with technical zeros, is because we fail to take into consideration that the sequence condition will determine the outcome. This sequence condition that we have right now is everybody is carrying the same sequence. Let's change that. Have the two inside girls turn around and just exchange places or pull by. And I want you to concentrate on the fact that Don's corner seal is right here. All right? Now let's use the technical zero. And all we've done now is change the sequence state from a same relative sequence to a not same. That's all we've done. Does everybody see that? Rotationally, man number 4, man number 1, man number 2, man number 3. Okay, so they are in sequence. Rotationally, girl number 4, girl number 3, girl number 2, girl number 1. Descending order, out of sequence. So they don't have the same sequence condition at this point. Star through, pass through, bend the line, and star through. Now, is Don looking at his corner? It's hard to see. Stand up, Don. There he is. Is he looking at his corner? Can you see why this drives us bananas? Because this is the case where you call an Allemande left and you know you've got corners, but look what happens. Allemande left, come on back and promenade. Error. Okay? And so you have a situation where, you've got to somehow accommodate the sequence, and this is the critical part of technical zeros. That list that I gave you, let's take a look at the very first item on there. Skip static square. I just put that in kind of tongue-in-cheek. But get down to, where are we? 8 chain through boxes. 8 chain through boxes. It says that the technical 0 is a pass-through trade by. But that's not enough. You need to say what the sequence condition is. Let's have the head ladies go back home again. Let's have the heads lead right. Here is your 8 chain through box. Men out of sequence, girls in sequence. Sequence condition is not same. This is the exact sequence condition and setup that's needed for this technical 0 pass-through trade by to work. It will not work in the other sequence state. All right? We know, for instance, can we do a swing through and a right and left grand here and it'll work? Anybody want to see it? Let's see it, just to be sure. Do a swing through. Have the girls turn back and everybody backwards promenade to home. Boom. All right, so it does work. All right? Now let's have the heads lead right again, and this is the setup. And by the way, for the sake of those who are listening to the tape and weren't at the convention, don't call this stuff. All right? We're just demonstrating modules here. That we're not trying to give you some workable choreography. Please don't call swing through, girls turn back, and backwards promenade to home. That's all right. Now, let's do a pass-through trade by. The neat thing about a technical 0 is once you apply it, the same get-out that you used prior to the technical 0 will now work, even though you're dealing with another set of people. All right? They've changed the faces that they're dealing with. How many of us are uncomfortable with this? I know I was. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm more comfortable if I do another pass-through trade by, get this couple back over there with Don where I had them to begin with. Then I'm comfortable. But now I've got them with the other two. So I have to trust the fact that I applied a technical 0 and it will still work. Swing through. And the girls turn back, all promenade home. Straight ahead. There you go. And so that works pretty good. All right? Now, let's have the heads pair off. We know we can do an Alaman left here. Okay? We also know that the sequence condition here is same. Okay? Let's apply the pass-through and trade by technical 0, knowing that we have the wrong sequence state, but let's apply it anyway and see what happens. Pass-through, trade by. I should be able to do an Alaman left here. Do an Alaman left. Come on back and promenade. Aha! Something interesting has happened. Okay? The interesting thing is this. If you apply a technical 0 in its wrong sequence state, you'll always end up with a 4 ladies chain effect. And that's what you have here. 4 ladies chain, and then you'll come back to your appropriate partner. All right? Huh? You bet you can use it. Let me show you how. I have the heads go in the center and pair off. Okay? Pass through and trade by. Alaman left. Right and left grand. On the third hand, you're home. Okay? All right. Now, well, I tell you, I feel powerful with this kind of stuff because I know if I really screw up, I can bail out and look like a hero. All right? This is some really, really neat stuff. Let's have the other situation is in the 8 chain through boxes. Take a look at the second example. Let's have the heads pair off for me. Now, we know that when the sequence condition was not same, like when we had heads lead right or heads lead left, we could do a pass-through trade by, and that technical 0 would work just fine. And you also heard me say that you can write a technical 0 from any setup. All you have to do is maneuver the dancers to this technically equivalent setup, and you've got yourself a technical 0. Now take a look at the second sample under 8 chain boxes of the technical 0. And look what it says. It says ladies chain, pass through, trade by, ladies chain. How does that differ? How does that differ from the one above it? It differs by the 4 ladies chain. If you chain the girls once here, then you do a pass through, trade by, and you chain the girls to the other side, what have you done? A 4 ladies chain. That's right. And in doing so, that's like accommodating the technical 0, Alaman left, right, left, grand, but on the third hand promenade. In other words, I accommodate the fact that I know there's going to be a 4 ladies chain effect in there. So the technical 0 from a same sequence situation just has a 4 ladies chain in it. That's the only thing that makes it different from the other one. 2 ladies chain. pass through, trade by, and just for the sake, 2 ladies chain. And you have the technical equivalent setup now. You have the head man and his partner on the outside instead of the side man and his partner. No, you're right, Lowell. And boy, I'd never call that. But no, you're absolutely right. But here, it's the easiest way for me to demonstrate that it's nothing but a 4 ladies chain differentiates a technical zero that works in one sequence state from the other. Just a 4 ladies chain. And you'll notice that in almost all of these. I'll get right with you in a second. Take a look at quarter tag. Do me a favor and square your set. We may as well demonstrate this. Top. Fan the top. And, okay, at this point, let's check our sequence. Are the men in or out? Out. Are the ladies in or out? In. So the sequence, the relative sequence is not same. Do we agree? Ping pong circulate. That is the technical zero. Anything that I could have done, if you can give me a get out from here, like extend, swing through, right and left grand, I can call it ping pong circulate any number of times and that get out will still work. All right, from this particular case, because it's a technical zero, the ping pong circulate. However, what happens when I do this? Center ladies trade. Now I've reverted back to the other sequence condition, haven't I? All right? And in this case, everybody is out of sequence, men and women. So if I call a ping pong circulate from here, go ahead, ping pong circulate, and then I try to apply my get out that I know worked from the other sequence state, extend, swing through, right and left grand, right, hit the showers, boy. Okay, just take her and square your set. Nope, what happened here? Oh, okay. Have the heads fan the top. Okay. Now what we want to do is to get a technical zero that'll work when we revert to the other sequence condition. So have the center ladies trade. In other words, what we've done now is just the heads past the ocean. Okay? And you'll notice that the sequence condition now is same. They're all in the same relative sequence. All right. So at this point, what we have to do is accommodate the ladies' chain thing. We have to have the girls chain somehow, and then chain again. We have to do a 4 ladies chain, and now this technical zero will work. So have the center ladies trade, ping pong circulate, and the center ladies trade. Now the get out that you might have used prior to doing this technical zero will still work. Okay? Which would be an extend, all 8 circulate, trade the wave, and Alaman left. Come on back. All right, so that's the technical aspect of the technical zero. Now you've got a bunch of them right here that you can work with. And pull some checkers out and work with them. I suggest perhaps that you consider taking a close look at Lawrence's computer program called WinHash. And those of you who have a computer, take a look at that thing, because you can manipulate the dancers on the screen. You can write your own little technical zeros. You can do a lot of things with that program. If you don't like to mess with the computers, get your checkers out, move them around, and see how this all works. First of all, does anybody have any questions on the technical part of the technical zeros? All right. Now, if you were to combine, yes.
Just for the tape, yeah, there exist other programs too in this world. Okay, it's not only my program.
I wished I'd said that. Let's have the heads. What we're going to do is we're going to combine the fractional zeros with the technical zeros in one tip. Where's my stuff? I lost my stuff. Well, there it is. And no, just hand me that, would you? Okay. All right, good. Before we do that, then, Lawrence is going to add a little comment regarding the 4 ladies chain effect of these technical zeros. Go ahead.
You can use the 4 ladies chain effect by saying element left, right, and left grand, and on the third hand. Promenade. In the singing call, whenever I start a singing call with a 4 ladies chain, and then my normal singing call figure. And let's do it, 4 ladies chain. Yeah. And for timing, I leave one movement out. Yeah. My singing call figure, normal heads promenade halfway. Do that, please. Heads promenade halfway. Heads. Down the middle, past the ocean. Extend. Swing through. Boys run. Wheel and deal. Now here's my singing call finished. And I do a swing your corner and promenade. Swing and promenade.
Happens to be
yeah, go.
Happens to be a right hand
set like this, yeah. And what you got is a right hand lady progression. Yeah. So you with the technical 0, I started with the 4 ladies chain. Square your sets, please. I started with the 4 ladies chain and then a normal corner lady progression singing call, and what I got was a right hand lady progression. Let's go back to that all 8 circulate. Head square through 4. And do that in the sing call. Yeah, well, you can pay off just as, okay? Now, if I call from here, pass through trade by, it is not a 0, but it's the latest chain effect. Okay? Pass through trade by. Okay. Now I do, for timing, my 64 beater in the singing call, slide through, pass through, tag the line, leads turn back. Okay? Swing and promenade. It is also not a short promenade for the quadrants, yeah. But what you have is a right-hand lady progression. You had a right-hand lady progression with a technical 0 by using the effect of the 4 ladies chain.
That's exactly right. How many of you have a simple, quick singing call figure that's a corner progression, like a head square through 4? Don't do it, just pair off. Head square through 4, just pair off. And then step to a wave. Now, somebody give me a sequence that you like to use from here for a singing call. Yeah. Spin the top. And you swing. Just take her and promenade her home, all right? Now, they happen to come back to their original partners. Now, let's see if I can remember what that sequence was. It was a spin the top, boys run, wheel and deal, and that was the corner. Slide through. Okay, you correct me when I get up to that point. All right, now, here's a modification of that. It gives you a right-hand lady change instead of the corner change, just because of your knowledge of technical 0s. Have the heads touch a quarter, and the boy run, pass through, trade by. Now, that pass through, trade by, that is the misapplication, if you will, of a technical 0. Because the pass-through trade by is only going to work as a 0 when you have a condition called not same sequence. And we had a condition same sequence. Well, what happens when you try to use a technical 0 in the wrong sequence state? You get a 4 ladies chain effect. And what's the 4 ladies chain, or the opposite girl from your corner? Your right-hand lady. All right, so this should work. Now let's put your figure in there. Spin the top. Boys run. I never used to forget these things. I turned 50 this year. Now I'm forgetting all this stuff. Wheel and deal. Slide through. Take her by the hand and promenade her home. And let's just see what happens here. First of all, the men are all in good shape. And the lady they acquired now is a right-hand lady instead of a corner.
I noticed that we seem to be getting away from having the men do the three-quarter turn and on the top.
Okay. So do you get the point? How you can take a technical 0 and now you double your potential with singing calls just by taking a standard figure and using a right-hand lady change instead of a corner change. Okay? It's a short promenade. Anybody have any questions up to this point? Because we're going to get something really exciting here. We're going to mix our fractional 0s and technical 0s and show you what happens. Some of the modular choreography you can come up with is phenomenal. It's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. We're just going to use mainstream type calls, I hope. You ready to go? All right, we're going to use the fractional 0 we'll use will be that ocean wave hinge and centers trade. Those of you who call
Beyond Plus might know that as a quarter through. Yes, please get your original part in the back. And that's also a 3-time repeating fractional zero, or a 1/3 zero, the hinge in the center straight. So, why don't you go ahead and take them up to that point and then execute the first fractional zero, and then I'll throw in a technical zero, and we'll see what happens. Explaining as we go along.
Okay, heads pay off. Touch a quarter, center straight.
All right, now that touch a quarter is equivalent to stepping to a wave, doing the hinge in the center straight. So now that's the first fraction of the 3-part zero. Now the technical zero is interesting because we don't have here a normal arrangement in this ocean wave. This is a number, Bill? Oh, Bill's asleep. Bill knows all these numbers really good. I know once you get past 0 and half, the rest of them are 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I'm not sure which one is which. This, I think, is a number 4. 3. I'll tell you what, it's men facing out, girls facing in. How's that? And then
it's boy, boy, girl.
What do I have?
Boy, boy, girl,
I thought that was a dress. I couldn't imagine a man wearing something like that. Boy, boy, girl, girl. That makes it a number 1 wave, I think. Number 1 wave. Okay, so, yes, number 2. It was one or the other. Thank you. Thanks, Bill. And it's a number 2 wave we got here now. And the funny thing about a technical zero is they only work in two of the 6 arrangements of a given formation. So, if I have a technical zero from parallel ocean waves that are normal, men on the ends, I cannot apply it here because it will not work. I know this. It's not going to work from here. It's not going to give me a zero. All right? Do you need proof of that before we go on? Anybody? Well, I'll give you the proof, and you can run the tape back and work some checkers out with it. If you took a heads pair off and stepped to a wave, a zero would be, what's a zero from there? Give me a zero from the technical zero. All 8 circulate. Let's have instead of doing that, have the heads lead right, step to a wave. So you have a not same sequence condition. All 8 circulate is there at technical zero. If I tried an all 8 circulate from here, it's not going to be a zero at all. How do I know that? Well, for one thing, here I have men on, let's say, the left end of the wave as I look at it as a caller, and ladies on the right end of the wave. If I do an all 8 circulate, it reverses that. It sends you over to from a number 2 wave to a number 1 wave. It can't be a zero then, because a zero restores the same phaser. An arrangement is one of the 4 main building blocks of your phaser. If the arrangement changes, you don't have a zero anymore. All right? So even though the technical zero works in arrangements 0 and 1/2, it will not work in the other 4. So I have to write one. I have to write one that works in this particular type of arrangement, which is your number 2 wave. And those of you who read the article that I wrote a technical zero from here, which was, I think, a spin chain through in the end circulate. And that gave me, no, that wasn't. Is that right? Yeah, that was it. That was it. And that is a technical zero. That will work out fine from here. Now, what I've done is I think I've written another one. I'm not sure, but I think I have. All I got to do is find the sucker. Here. Check for the rotation. Okay? If they rotate, this technical zero is going to bring Lowell to Lloyd. I got a Lowell and a Lloyd. So Lowell goes to Lloyd, Lloyd goes to Don, and Don will be right over here. All right? Likewise for the ladies. They're going to have to rotate. So we're going to double check our technical zero by looking for that rotation. All 8 circulate. Centers trade. Swing through. There's the technical zero. All right? Now, what happens if I have to bail out from here? Well, all I have to do is undo my hinge and centers trade, and I know I have to be back to that zero box that I left. But instead, we're going to go on with the second third of the fractional zero, which is
single hinge center trade.
Hinge and centers trade. And now this gives us no longer a number 2, but this happens to give us a number, Bill, I'm relying on you. It's 3 or 4. It's got to be 3 or 4. It's I say 3. Must be a 4 then. That's right. It's a 4. Sometimes you get chickens, sometimes you get feathers, you know. It's a 3. Thank you very much. It is a 3. All right. So at this point now, I can't use that last technical 0 that I used because that last technical 0 is not going to work from here. All right? That last technical 0 will only work when I have 2 men together and 2 girls together in an ocean wave. Those 2 classifications of arrangements, the number 1 and the number 2. It will not cross into the next group, 3 and 4. All right? So I have to write a different technical 0, and believe me, this was tough. This was tough because the hinge and the center's trade kept changing the sequence, the relative sequence, all the way through. All right? The first hinge and center's trade changed it, and that technical 0 had to be written for a not same sequence, and the second one had to be written for a same one, and so on. Anyway, here's the one we came up with. Where the heck is it? Spin chain through. End circulate. All 8 circulate. Ends trade. Centers trade. And that technical 0, if you want to commit that one to memory, will work from there. Okay? And furthermore, it'll work anytime you have an ocean wave with men facing in or out. I mean, in this particular fashion. Both men either facing in or facing out. That technical 0 will bring you right back again. And now you have your last fraction, hinge.
Single hinge, and the girls cross run to a left element.
To a left element. Very nice. And reverse your promenade. Drag her back. Okay? So, that is basically the heart of our presentation here. There's a lot that went on. I know that. However, I think it's kind of exciting that you know that you can sit down and take some time and write some of these modules. And once you have these things, all you have to do is call them once. You own them. You own them forever. And if you were to put that whole sequence together and come up and dance it, you would find that it's very danceable. And the dancers have no idea what kind of a pattern that they're going through. You're sending them through a very precise pattern. The dancers really don't sniff it. They don't see it coming. Why? Because the arrangements keep changing on them. All right? In real time, have the heads pair off. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. All 8 circulate. Centers trade. Swing through. To a spin chain through. Ends circulate once. All 8 circulate. Careful. Left swing through 3 hands. 1, 2, 3. I left my second fractional 0 out. That's the second time I've done that. Scoot back. Doesn't make any difference. I think I got it. Split circulate. Hinge. Left swing through. Centers trade. Centers run. Ooh, ooh, that was close, Bill. Tag the line. Right. Bend the line. Yeah, we were. Past the ocean. Hinge. Centers trade. All 8 circulate. Recycle. 2 ladies chain. Now, erase all that. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. That's the first fraction. So you should be doing the fractions, and I'll do the technical 0s. Then I won't get confused. All right, technical 0. All 8 circulate. Centers trade. Swing through. Next fraction.
Single hinge, center scoot back. It's a left hand, and flip to the left. It's just a trade. It's nothing more. Okay.
Spin chain through. As I said, it gets exciting. End circulate. There you go. All 8 circulate. Left swing through. 3 hands. Scoot back. And now give me my last fraction.
Single hinge, grilled trade.
And you're back to your 0 box again. All right? Now tell me that the dancers are going to be sniffing that out. No way. We can hardly even call it. Never mind. But first of all, let's thank our square here. They've been very patient. We've had you guys up. And I know this is a real fashion statement, but you don't get to keep the pennies. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Kevin, just 2 of you remember to do all this stuff. How do you expect to do it? You work together very often?
Yeah, we worked together for the first time last Saturday, didn't we? And actually, we didn't do this stuff. No, yeah.
This seems incredibly complicated to keep track of all of this stuff.
Then, well, of course, let me just put it this way. For the sake of the tape, the convention tape, I wanted to take the extreme and put it on tape so that guys could sit down and work their checkers and see how it goes. How do you really work with this stuff? You start simple, like anything else. You get yourself a nice little fractional 0. Doesn't have to be a 1/3 one. You can use a 1/2 fractional 0. Or another 1/3 fractional 0 that's not quite as complex is the pass-through, wheel and deal, double pass-through, centers in, cast off 3/4. Repeat that 3 times. We all know that, right? So that's a 1/3 fractional 0. Now, at the end of each one of those fractions, write yourself a technical 0. Is that the complicated part? Writing the technical 0? Because I can show you an example of how to write that. It's not that tough to write one. Okay, that's why I gave you this handout. There's nothing this complex in that handout, all right? Most of us know that if you have the heads pair off, you have one type of an 8-chain box that's going to lead you to a corner, right? And if you have the heads lead right, you've got a different kind of box where you just can't, you're not going to resolve to the corner in an 8-chain through box. You're going to have to say pass through Alaman left or something like that. Everybody knows that. So that's all you really have to be aware of. The way we vocalize that is to say that one of them is a not same sequence situation, the case where the heads lead right, and the ones where the heads pair off is a same sequence situation. If we have to talk to each other about it, that's how we would relate it. That's one way we could relate it. Another way we could relate it is to say, okay, Kip, have the heads pair off. Now, from here, all right, and you don't really track your sequence. You just are aware of the fact that you have, it's like one of the rules I talked about initially. You must have a rule, some rule in your head, something that you follow that you differentiate a heads lead right type of 8-chain through box from a heads pair off type 8-chain through box. Okay, just apply that same rule. Don't worry about the sequence. Now the technical 0 that works when you have a heads lead right is a pass through trade by. Now you own that, see? And however you think about the sequence state, don't call it same or not same if you don't want to. Just think about it the way you've always thought about it. And remember that when you have everybody paired, laterally paired with original partners, or laterally paired with the same lady, all right? By that I mean laterally paired with original partner, laterally paired with original opposites, laterally paired with right-hand ladies, or laterally paired with corners. You can call a pass-through trade by, and that's a technical 0.
I think you did that also naturally. How often you called from a 0 box, split the outside 2, separate round 1 to a line, everybody started through in California 12. Does everybody know that? And you used it only from a 0 box. This is a technical 0. And you owned that technical 0 for many years. But you called it only from a 0 box. If you call it from a lead to the right box, and our get out will be swing through to a right or left grand. So I call heads lead to the right, split the outside 2, round 1, everybody started through California 12, swing through to a right or left grand on the 3rd hand promenade. You did that naturally. And all what we're going to take is some more. Take that pass to trade by. And pass to trade by is the same. Step to a wave, all 8 circulate, and step back. Or, hope you can follow that, swing through, boys run right. Couples circulate, and you do a veer right, but behind each other. Can you see if you swing through, boys run, now couples circulate, and veer in front. It's the same like pass to trade by.
So now you own pass through trade by as a technical zero. What he's saying is find equivalents for a pass through trade by, and it just explodes geometrically what you can do with it. All right. So forget about if you want for now, forget about the fractional zero, the 1/3 fractional zero laced with a technical zero in between. That is complex. Admittedly, that's tough. All right. But I demonstrate that to show you how much power there is in this. That's not even the end of the limits to this thing. All right. And you also notice that you don't need sight calling. You don't need any sight calling to do this. You just need good timing and darn good memory. But that's true with any modular technique, folks. You know, modules mean memory. They're, you know, once a module is written, it's memorized from that point on. Yes, Bill? Hang on, Bill. Let me get you this microphone here.
One thing that may be confusing some of them, it's confusing me, is that to me a zero means you go to a point, you do the zero, you're back at the same point. Now that has a name, I'm sure, technical, or not technical, but true. And then you throw in geographic, which puts you in exactly the same location, is that right? Okay. So when you say it's a technical zero, it is sometimes, and sometimes it is if you do it twice.
That, you know, I even put in the article I first wrote on that, I said, you know, it works sometimes, so you can't really say it's a true zero. It doesn't work other times, so you can't say it's not a zero. What is it? It's a technical zero. Technically, it works sometimes. And the sometimes is defined by the sequence state. Boy, that sounds like double talk, but it's really not. The object of this exercise is take one that's simple that you hadn't thought of, perhaps. Parallel ocean waves, all 8 circulate from a not same sequence. That means you relate that to the heads lead right box. Pass through trade by works from there. Okay, if you have a heads lead right, step to a wave, all 8 circulate, that's a technical zero from there. So there's cousins. Those two moves are cousins, not only because they're technical zeros, but also because they work from the same sequence condition. They work from a similar sequence condition. All right, heads lead right kind of box. All right, so we had a hand over here, Lloyd. Microphone, okay.
My name is Lloyd Lewis. The question I had, and I really haven't been able to understand this, but I found out about it one time. I know that doing a singing call, if you set up a box 1-4 and you say spin chain through and the girls circulate once and immediately say spin chain through and the boys circulate once, you're zeroed back to the corner, you can swing or promenade. But something I found out, and I don't understand why, if you say from that same box 1-4 wave originally, spin chain through girls circulate double, and then spin chain through boys circulate double, you get the same result. And I don't understand why. The difference was the one time you had them both circulate once each.
Oh, yeah.
The time you had them circulate twice each. But you still get to the corner each case. As long as you do both of them the same.
Both of them the same.
But one was one circulate, one was twice.
But if you take a look, at spin chain through and the ends circulate once.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to get a square up and look at this? Because this is intriguing. It's just a half a zero. Well, there you go. They're both half zeros. But what makes them a half a zero? Well, really, it's an anomaly of the spin chain through and the end circulate once. I mean, if you take a look at that call, isn't that equal to just a swing? If you were in a parallel ocean waves, your heads pair off, step to a wave, and the boy and the girl traded.
Or a scoot back even, yeah.
Yeah, or scoot back.
Right.
Isn't that the equivalent of a
Right.
spin chain through and the end circulate
Right.
once?
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, so if you do it again, it's going to swing you right back where you came from. So
Okay, but you see, if you have the end circulate twice,
if the end circulate twice, go ahead.
but you only did.
Here's what's happening.
If you don't do it the second one,
let's
you're with your partner.
Okay, let's do it this way.
If you have a box 1-4 and you say spin chain through, girls circulate twice.
Twice. What's
you're
happening
with your
if you-
partner right
but
at
if
that
they-
point. You have to do a second one to get back to the corner.
That's correct. That's correct.
But the first one,
The first
you did
one-
once, you had your corner, didn't you?
that's when you circulate once, you get your
Because-
corner.
right.
You circulate twice, you come back to original partner.
Right.
Okay. But now your second spin chain through is not starting from the same arrangement as the first one.
Okay.
You're in a halfway.
Okay, you're right.
And so what you're doing is you're sending the boys back the other way.
Okay, I got you.
And instead of going progressively to a right-hand lady, they're going back to their corner.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see now.
Okay. What confused you there was, and it's a point that a lot of us get confused on. A technical zero must start from a precise phaser, and when you have the technical equivalent, or you do the technical zero, you got to start it from the same place. You can't pick another phaser and call it again. All you really have there is two calls. You've got two calls. You've got a spin chain through and circulate twice, and then you have a spin chain through and then circulate twice. So, but good point. It's a good point, because those are the things that do make us go a little bit nuts, especially when we're expecting one result and we get something totally different. And just when you think you're at the end of a singing call and you get everybody back, and now you're fidgeting around and you look at the floor and they're looking at you like, oh, I ran out of music, I guess. Okay, let's bring the mic down to Rick. Here, I'll take it down.
Well, meanwhile, there is in your handout the fractional zero. There's a spot there that says nothing. What's supposed to be there is, from a normal line spacing, a 1/4 fractional zero, and I want to give it to you right now, if you want to write them down. Touch a quarter. Okay. This one here. Yeah. Turn it around and there's a... Yeah. Okay. That is a normal line, a 1/4 fractional zero. Yeah, 1/4 from line. It says touch a quarter. Single file circulate, boys run and slide through. Touch a quarter, single file circulate, boys run, slide through. It's a 1/4. You got that? Normal.
We have two different printouts here. His was updated, and the one you got was a first cut. So what are you looking for? Normal box where it says one normal wave. Okay, this one right here. Oh, where it's handwritten, normal wave. That's me. I just wrote that. I wrote in his original and forgot to erase it. That's a gotcha. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you should probably write one yourself there. How's that? Okay. What Lawrence had in that box was a normal line 1/4 fractional zero, not normal wave. 1/3.
A 1/3 is missing. A 1/3 from a normal line. That's what it is. Yeah, and 1/3. Excuse me. Yeah, 1/3. Yeah, you switch these two columns. It's a pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, peel off. Line spacing in 1/3. You're supposed to call it 3 times. Pass through, wheel and deal, double pass through, and peel off. That was the one that's missing. Okay.
What on that is the empty box where It should be a normal line, 1/3 fractional zero.
Yeah, I think I've answered it myself while we were dithering, but the original question was, suppose you've got a formation where you've got all of one gender in a wave down the center. How do you go about determining sequence of that gender? Do you go adjacent dancers, or actually if you have them unstep from their wave for a second, it gives you a more circular figure that you can determine?
Okay. Quite frankly, there are some places where I just don't bother figuring out the sequence. That's one of them. However, you can take your line and start from one end and just read the numbers off, and if they're in ascending order, you call it in sequence. If they're in descending order, they're out of sequence. You should get the same result if they did a rear back. If you're talking about a line, a wave of it, like a tidal wave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, either a tidal wave or just, for instance, a quarter tag with the women on the outside and the men in the wave.
Okay, yeah. And you want to know the sequence there? The sequence string tries to remain on the perimeter as much as it can. So it passes through the two girls on the outside. It comes into the wave end through the center and back out again. Okay? But your result, since you're talking about relative sequence of men and women,
it's actually clearer if you take the man's wave and just have them step back.
Yeah, if you step back, because a right-handed wave and a left-handed wave is going to give you two answers. It's going to give you two different answers there. So you really have to have them step back a little bit and then follow the sequence string as if they were adjacent or tandem with each other. Okay? All right, folks, we don't want to run you over here because I know that they've got some fresh coffee and some great grub waiting for us out there during that break. Let's show our appreciation, first of all, for our German friend, our latest best friend from Germany, Lorenz Kuhlee. And thank you so much for being here this afternoon. We'll see you later on. Have a great day.